Hi everyone, welcome to my talk on how to use Slack as a control plane for your AI coding agents. So this is the forward-looking statement. I want to work for Salesforce. And a bit about myself. My name is Gigi. I'm a technical architect from Venture Tech Group. Outside of work, I lead the Slack community group in Toronto. So I do a lot of integrations, working with MuleSoft, Salesforce every day, and I do use AI coding agents quite a bit. So this talk will be about how we can use it inside Slack. So imagine this scenario. You're in a doctor's appointment, and you waited at least an hour for this appointment. And you're away from your desk, you don't have your laptop with you, and your project manager suddenly messaged you and said, help, the website is completely down. What would you do? You can't fix it right there. But what if you could fix it right from your phone? And that's what I'm going to show you today on how you can prompt your AI coding agents inside of Slack. So your phone doesn't need to be just for notifications or communication, but you can actually use it to prompt your agent and use it as your on-the-go development tool. So you don't have to rush to find your laptop. And what's better is that the AI agent will actually send you a preview of what was done. So you get a full cycle loop. And it's not just limited to Cursor. You can use it for GitHub Copilot, Claude, and I can show you where you can find other connectors for different tools. So why Slack? We know that Slack is not just a messaging system. It's an agentic operating system for work. And there's a lot of out-of-box integrations with Salesforce already. And you can use it to prompt your agent force, and you can interact with Slackbot, and I'll talk a bit more about using Slackbot as well. And it's a place where you can work with your AI agent side by side. And there's also a lot of integrations and apps that you can add it to so that you can make your AI agents more powerful. So why would you use Slack as the control plane? Well, Slack is already the place where you interact with your internal team, and you can interact with your clients and get feedback. So you have a lot of context inside Slack already, and you can use that context to prompt your agent. And in the demo, I'll show you how you can just tag Cursor and ask it to make the update. And not just that, but you can also power up Slackbot, and I will explain why. And traditionally, when you have an issue, you would log it into your ticketing system like Jira or other system, and then you have to summarize the information, and every handoff can lose some context. And then you assign the ticket to your engineer, and the engineer might come back, and they may or may not understand what needs to be done, and then you go back to the project manager. But if you have all the context inside Slack already, then you can have all the context in there, and people can go back to the conversation where the discussion first happened. And it also reduces a lot of manual work. And Slack can be the place where you make decisions and react. Because the hardest part of engineering isn't about typing out code and the syntaxes. AI agents actually does that a lot nowadays. But the hardest part is making the right decisions, designing the architecture, and you can use Slack as the place where you observe where the decision making happens, and you can refine the process in the future. So how does it work? Because when you're editing code on your computer, you fire up your code editor. It could be Cursor, it could be VS Code, but on the phone, you don't have any of that. So how it works is that the cloud agent will spin up a cloud environment. This is like a virtual computer on the cloud that has all the tools that you need to run the code. So the agent spins up the environment, and it pulls down the code from a Git system, which is a version control platform. This could be GitHub, Bitbucket, or GitLab. And it's not just doing a bit of code, but it actually has like a full development capability. You can use it to implement new features, or you can track down bugs. And the best part is it closes the loop as well. So then you can get a summary of the progress and the update and what it's working on. So let's start with the demo. So in here, I have a Slack thread. It's a conversation between me and a project manager. So the project manager said, hey, we're getting customer feedback saying that the website is too long. When they scroll to the bottom, it takes a long time to scroll all the way back to the top to add the products to the cart. And then I said, well, that should be easy. Just add a back to top button on the website, and that's it. So from this conversation, I can now tag Cursor. Okay, so I was gonna demo it live, but it looks like it's not connected. So here we have the conversation, in the beginning, and then I tag Cursor to ask it to make the update. So what happens is it'll go back and look at the conversation in the thread to see what updates it needs to make to get the context. So you can see here that it chooses a repository. And the reason why it knows which repository it is because I can set a default repository for a specific channel. So you can have different channels that has different default repository. And you can change it too when you prompt your agent. And here is after it started working on the task itself. And what's helpful is that it actually includes a link here for the pull request. So it links back to GitHub, where you can see a summary of what changes have been made. And you can look at the diff in the code to see the exact code changes. And you can also open it in web too. So this button here will actually bring you to Cursor. So you can see real time of what changes are happening, what the agents are working on. And what's great is that if you want to work with multiple agents at the same time, you can actually have multiple threads. So you can prompt 5 different agents for 5 different repo at the same time. And there's a command you can use to observe what the agents are doing. And here is how you would set it up. So first you need a Git platform account. So for this, I was using GitHub, but you can use other Git platform as well. And you need a Cursor account. So after you sign up, you can check out this link here. This is how you would set up the integration between Slack and Cursor. And it takes about 2 minutes. So it would show you what permissions it needs. It will have the OAuth permission, and then you can check to make sure that it adheres to your company policy. And then it'll install the package into your Slack channel. Then you can invite Cursor into your channel. So the first time you invite Cursor, it'll prompt you and say, hey, Cursor is not in the channel yet. Do you want to add it? And that's something important to remember because Cursor doesn't actually have permissions to channels that you don't invite it to. So that's how you want to be aware of which channel you want to invite Cursor to. And then you can set up the default repo. And not just that, you can set up the default branch that it works on. So it doesn't have to work directly on main branch, and I wouldn't recommend it either. So I would choose a development branch or feature branch. So what happens in the back end is that Slack is the place where you capture the information, the requirement, and prompt the agent. And then the cloud agent gets spin up, and then it creates a cloud environment to read the information from the thread, and it pulls the code from GitHub. And then it builds and tests and debugs in the cloud environment. Then after it works on the code, it pushes it back to GitHub so that you can see the pull request, what changes it's made, and you can preview it. So you can also do a lot. So what I did, if I could have the demo, was that I could send back a preview of the website using GitHub Actions. So GitHub Actions is like an automation that runs whenever you have code that are merges to a specific branch. So I can use a Slack URL, which is it's like a webhook. So you can create a unique URL to send information back to a specific channel, and you can see the result. So I can click on the link to see what changes are made. And you can also have the context inside inside GitHub. Because you still want to have that human in the loop. You want to review the code. You don't want to directly push it to main without having someone looking at it. So after it's done changing the code, it'll create a pull request, and then we can surface the link to the website inside of Slack. So I mentioned that you can power up Slack bot. So what do I mean by that? So if you're not familiar with Slack bot, it's a native AI agent inside of Slack. And I use it daily because it's really helpful. It can read the messages and it can read files. So you can ask questions about specific PDF and document, and it can even connect to external systems. So if you can connect your AI coding agent inside of Slack, then now Slackbot has those context too. So for the example I showed in the beginning, let's say the website completely broke down in 3 days, and you want to know what commits you made in the past few days to understand what broke, then you can ask Slackbot, and it will actually give you information chronologically about what happened in the past. So this is an example when I asked Slackbot what recent changes have been made to the website. And it can pull all the information that we get back from Cursor. Because remember, Cursor sends back a summary of what it changed. Now Slackbot has that context as well. So it says that we added a back to top button, and I reverted it so I could demo it. And then I can ask further questions, like why did we add the button? Because I might have forgot the conversation we had with the project manager. And it actually brings us back to the very specific conversation. And not just that, it actually includes the link to the conversation itself. And this is where we need to have human in the loop again. Make sure you click on the link and verify that it's not taken out of context. So when would I recommend this pattern? Well, I would use it for early development work, like you want to have a proof of concept. Sometimes it's easier to see it than to just have discussions about it, and I would spin up an AI agent to do that. It could be small internal tooling that not many people uses yet, or small bug fixes. Now, I wouldn't use it for huge legacy code where it's very complicated. I probably still want to have the code editor work inside the computer and work with the AI agents with that. And if your team already lives inside of Slack, then you already have the context in Slack. So this would be the perfect place to try it out. And you can actually spin up a free sandbox from the Slack website to test it out. You don't have to use your production instance. So the key takeaway is Slack can be the control plane where you prompt your AI coding agent. And the process is very highly customizable because now in Cursor, you can set up Cursor rules. You can put in your coding standards, you can add skills, you can talk about your process, your CI/CD process so that it doesn't merge directly into development branch if you want to. So you can have a lot of guardrails. You can use Git branch protection as well. And you can use this to power up Slackbot because the more context you put inside of Slack, then the more powerful Slackbot is when you need to ask it questions in the future. And I was going to show how to find other connectors. So let me just go back to Slack. So if you want to know what other connectors or integrations are available, you can go into apps, and then you can click on, browse apps. And then if you do a search here, you can see what other tools are available. So there's Claude, there's Cursor, there's GitHub integration. So you can kind of explore what other integrations are available out there. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Thank you for coming.